What's up, guys? So today we're going to try to dye these knife handle scales purple with some Rit DyeMore. Alright, so this has been kind of a popular thing in general, people dyeing the handle scales on their knives to change the color. This one is a rotor, which is really cool, has synthetic handle scales, and we should be able to dye them purple. Alright, so as far as like taking the knife apart, I mean, you can if you want to. The only thing, I mean, I don't really care about taking it apart. I'm just going to wash this when I'm all done and, you know, dry it very thoroughly and re-oil the pivot. But you might want to consider taking off a pocket clip just in case if in the future you want to take off a pocket clip or swap it or something like that. You know, obviously the color underneath is the same as the handles. But I'm just going to throw the whole thing in there. Alright, so first thing I want to do, get a pot of water, alright, about halfway, and start boiling it. So I have the heat on right now. When this comes to a boil, we're going to go ahead and put in some dish detergent, and then we're going to put in our dye and let it soak for a little bit. Alright, now that we are boiling, I turn the heat down just a touch so we can keep it kind of a rolling boil. So you want to add a little bit of dish detergent, from what I heard. Alright, so got some on a spoon here. Mix that in. And then we're going to add some dye. Now keep in mind, dye dyes things, right? So you have to be extremely careful. Anything this gets on, it will ruin it. Alright, so be super, super, super extra careful. Throwing a little cap right in the garbage. So you already got a little on my finger. Let's see if I can rinse off. Should probably be wearing gloves for this. Whoop. And I'm not even paying attention because my water is about to boil over. Turn the heat down a little more. Obviously adding the soap is making that bubble up. Okay, so there we go. So let's finally add this this dye in here. Again, this is the Rit DyeMore Royal Purple. Alright. And a little more. That should be plenty. Alright, next step, get some tongs, because obviously you don't want to just drop your knife in. It's going to splash the dye everywhere. Alright, get a good firm hold on it and just place it in there. Now we're going to let this do its thing here. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit more. We're going to let this sit in here for about 3 minutes or so. Alright, pull it up a little bit, take a look at it. You just continue this process until you get the color that you want, or at least the depth of the color that you want. Alright, so it's been 3 minutes. Zoom in. And the reason for zooming in is I want to lift it out of this liquid here just a little bit to see what it looks like, but I don't want to bring it up to the camera because I realize it's just going to be dripping, and then my wife will kill me because we'll have a purple spot on our floor forever. Alright, so get a good grip on it. That is that's purple. I mean, that's as, I don't know if it can even get darker, to be honest. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it in here for a couple more minutes anyway. But that seems like it's done its job already. So, yeah. I'll give it another 3 minutes, and then we'll pull it out and take a look at it. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, so that should be it. 3 minutes. Shut the oven off here. And what I want to do is actually, I have a cutting board next to this. I'm going to put it right next to it, so that I'll have little drippage. Oh yeah, that thing is purple. Do not want to do that. Alright. I want to drip off everything as possible. And I don't know if you guys can see it. Well, you can kind of see it off to the left here, but I got a long paper towel that's folded multiple times. So if it soaks through, it's not going to dye the cutting board, which is also plastic. So that would go purple as well. So really make sure this thing's not dripping. And bring it over to let all of that liquid absorb. Alright, so let's move this camera over a little bit and get a shot of that. That thing is purple. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty purple. So I'm going to go ahead and let this, well, I'm going to let the liquid cool down a little bit and dispose of that very carefully. Alright, I'm going to let any excess soak up on this paper towel here. Alright, and when I'm all done, you want to rinse this off in cold water. All right, then you're going to completely dry it. Make sure, and you can use a hair dryer, which is probably what I'm going to do. Make sure the whole thing is bone dry. Then you can re-oil that pivot and you're good to go. All right, so I'll be back. All right, guys, so here it is. I could not be happier with these results. Look at this. Let me zoom in for you. So what I did was I let it rest on the paper towel, and I kind of let the dye absorb any extra, liquid that was just sitting on top of the scales. Just kind of pat it down a little bit. Let it sit there for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Then I ran it under cold water for a good like 2 or 3 minutes, just to make sure, again, any loose dye would run off. And then that was it. And then I completely dried it. I let it actually put it in front of a heater for a little bit, all right, and then I used a hair dryer and just made sure it was bone dry. And every time I handled it, even like now, it's kind of weird because I'll touch it and use it a little bit, and then I'll kind of look at my fingers because I'm expecting the dye to come off. But that is it. It is permeated into the plastic. Then I, of course, re-oiled it because you're going to strip all the oils out doing this process. And here it is. So every nook and cranny got completely dyed the same color. Let me give you a super zoom. All right, again, just so you can see some of the detail on how this absorbed. It was awesome. It was really easy. So, there was no real concern as far as like putting the whole knife in there. Obviously, you don't necessarily want dye underneath the scales and stuff. So if you're, extra worried about that, I mean, you don't have to be, but of course you could take the knife apart if you wanted to. But this color is beautiful. This is, it's kind of like a blurple. I mean, sometimes, depending on the lighting, just kind of playing around with this for the last couple hours now. Sometimes it's straight up purple and sometimes it's blue. It just kind of depends. It's definitely similar to that Spyderco blurple type G10. But yeah, that's it. So from white to purple, it's that easy. And they have so many different colors. This is just a really cool concept. You could dye any scales. Now, I'm not sure exactly how it would come out if you had, like, let's say I have the yellow one from the Battle Box. I actually like the yellow. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to mess with that one. But I'm wondering if you had, I don't know, lighter colored scales, if you tried to dye. I mean, I would imagine that it doesn't really matter what the scales are. If you wanted to make them black, you could probably dye them black, but don't quote me on that. In fact, if you've gone through this process before and used the Rit dye and have experimented, please post your comments down below. Let everyone know, what your experiences have been. But this is fantastic. It was super simple process. The original directions, and of course I should read the directions, but on the dye, I want to say that it was like 3 gallons of water for like, what I put into that pot was probably good for like 3 gallons. Like you could have did a big batch of stuff. So I definitely used more dye than was necessary. You could be a little, a little less liberal, I guess, with pouring that in like I did. But I want to make sure that it was going to work properly. But that's only because I had a much smaller volume of water. But because of that, it didn't take as long. Like if you look at the back of the bottle, it'll say like a half an hour to an hour in some cases, depending on, how rich you want that color. But that's because that dye is dispersed among more water. So the more concentrated it is, the quicker it was. Again, this was only like 6 minutes total, all right, 7 minutes, something like that. And I have perfectly rich royal purple. So super cool, but I love it. And the rotor is a really cool knife. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, it came out exactly how I wanted to. So let me know down again in the comment section if you have dyed, handle parts or scales. I mean, you could get pretty creative with it. A lot of backspacers are like just G10. Most times they're kind of black or darker colors, so it might be harder to actually dye them. But if for some reason, you had white ones or something, you wanted to add a little pop of color to your knife, you could certainly do all parts. I mean, it's pretty much any synthetic. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So that's all. Dyeing your knives to make them different colors. It's very fascinating stuff. That's all. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take it easy.